And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
The box says, for Linwood, Adventure in Waiting. Linwood is an interesting roll and move game where you roll the piece and move your figure on the board, but the board is changing. You're putting down tiles and moving around trying to find different stones, which will then give you abilities. I'm going to reserve my judgment on this one until after I show you how it plays. A start tile is placed on the board, and on this start tile, each player places their pawn. You can have up to 6 players, and then the Forest Bandit is placed here in the middle. On a player's turn, they are going to roll a single 6-sided die. When they do this, they will move their piece exactly the amount shown. So let's say I'm the red player. I then am going to move onto a new tile. So I draw a new tile. I can place it any way I want, and I have to move onto it. 1, 2. Now I could draw a new tile for this area. 3, 4. Draw a new tile for the next area, and my turn's done. It's the next player's turn. And so as the game progresses, you're going to see all sorts of tiles. And sometimes tiles with water are going to come up, and a player cannot move on water. Now, what you're doing, and the reason you're moving around the board, is because you're looking for these tiles. When a player lands on the middle of one of these tiles by exact amount, they then get the matching element card for that tile. Each of these element cards gives you a special ability. Let's start with the wind. With the wind special ability, you can now move faster. So instead of rolling 1 white die, you get to roll 2 of them. With the water element, you can now move through the water spaces. And since there are quite a few tiles with water all throughout the game, very useful. With the fire elemental, you can now navigate through tunnels. Going through tunnels, if you go into one tunnel, you can then come out the board anywhere else. There are 4 different tiles with tunnels on the board, and you can fly from one to the other. And then finally, the last one is the forest one, the first one I showed you. And when a player gets that one, on their turn, they can move the bandit. They roll a die, move the bandit. If they can make the bandit land on another player, that player must give up one of their elements, as chosen by the guy moving the bandit, and then the other player, the player who the bandit lands on, must move back to the beginning. The first person to get all 4 elements and back to the beginning, the starting tile, is the winner of the game. Alright? That's how you play. Now, let me point out a few problems I have with the game. First of all, it's roll and move. You roll the dice, you move. If you continually roll 1s, you're not going to move very far. And someone who rolls higher is going to move a lot faster than other players. However, rolls should even out during the course of the game. So let's set aside that. There is only 1 tile with each of the elements on in this whole pile of tiles in the game. There's quite a few of them. And as players move, they invariably move away from each other. And the first player who gets lucky and gets one of these elements is going to have a huge leg up. You find an element, it allows you to move faster, to move through water, to move through tunnels. You find another element, and you go faster and faster and faster, and the other players are left in the dust. Still, it's not too much of a problem. You could always all go together, although at that point, it's going to come down to the die roll, which is going to be very unsatisfying. But the biggest problem I have with the game, by far, is with this wood elemental. Because once you can start moving this guy, the only way the other players can stop you is by also moving him. So one of 2 things will happen. If one player can move him, they're going to move him on top of the other players, continually sending them back to start and losing all their elements, until those other players manage to trundle over and get it for themselves. By at which point, the guy who got it first has a huge, huge, huge advantage. Another reason, if one player is winning and a few other players control the fire elemental, even if all the players control him, they're going to eventually move it towards that player and knock him out of the running. And there's nothing he can do because one die roll is not going to beat multiple black die rolls. And then the third reason is, basically, is that it's just, again, adds another immense amount of luck to the game. You steal other people's resources, and they're trying to get them back, but you send them back to the start, and it's very frustrating. The game basically comes down to the person who gets lucky and finds these. Multiple games, it came down to everyone was searching, and the person who would find this element first, the wood element, would be the winner of the game. It sounds like I'm not saying anything good about this game, and really that's true, but let me say some things. I like the ideas. I like the idea of drawing a new tile and the paths, but I'm telling you, it is such a frustrating game at times because you're moving on tiles and you're moving around and exploring, and it's possible to move into an area where you basically have dead-ended yourself just because of the tiles that you drew. Meanwhile, the other players, oh, look, they found the element tiles. Well, I got to run over there too. And then you start rolling ones, and you're taking forever. Meanwhile, they got the other element tiles. You finally get one. A guy moves the bandit on you, and he steals it. So you go over to where the bandit tile is. And it's also possible that they can set it up so you can't even get to the tile because you can only go over water spaces to get to it, and they have the water thing, and then you have to go get the water elemental to move over the water. You get the water elemental, they steal the water from you. This game is really a disaster. It has such a... I mean, I really had high hopes for it. The rules, by the way, are written so succinctly that they don't answer any questions, and I had to go over them and make sure I found the victory conditions. They were just kind of mentioned very briefly in the beginning, and that was it. And they could have been better written. The pawns, the dice are nice quality. I mean, it looks neat when the game was done, but so much luck is involved in this game that I really couldn't see the strategy. You just search and hope you find the tiles. I really wanted to like this game, but it just really falls flat for me.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.